The Slut Life podcast is brought to you by Slut Life brand. Slut Life is a clothing and lifestyle brand that firmly believes in empowering the sluttier side of yourself. As a thank you to our listeners, Slut Life is offering 50% off any one item on their online store at www.slutlifebrand.com. Use code SLUTPOD50 at checkout to receive 50% off any one item. That's code SLUTPOD50, SLUTPOD50 at checkout to receive 50% off any one item at www.slutlifebrand.com.
Be loud. Be proud. Be a slut.
Hi, sluts.
Hey, sluts.
Welcome to another episode of the Slut Life podcast. I am your host, Buxom Gusher.
I don't know why I'm here.
Daddy Gusher.
Yeah, I'm no longer behind the curtain as usual. I'm filling in for the lovely Miss Cherry Von Baum, who could not co-host with us today.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you know, usually you get to see that cutie. Today you get to look at this Uggy.
No, stop it. So we do have a very special guest today. We have Imogen Peahen. Today, we have a very interesting topic. We are discussing polyamory and open relationships, ethical non-monogamy, swinging, that whole umbrella of funness. So, Imogen has been a burlesque dancer since about 2015 and has been in a poly relationship since 2023. She has a BS in interpersonal and organizational communication and a graduate diploma in sexology.
Fancy.
I have questions.
I have answers.
Ooh. What do you learn in sexology?
Yeah, what's that about?
So sexology is the scientific study of human sexuality. So it is the whole spectrum of not just gender and sexuality, but also the scientific side of it. So what does that do to your body?
Oh.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, and then also the research behind it. So what happens when... Anyways, it is really what we should be teaching in school here. Part of it is the sex education. It has 3 sectors that you could but what you could specialize in. So you could do the research side of it. You could do therapy, or you could do education. Okay. And so cool. I was going the therapy route, but I realized about halfway through the program that I would need to actually also take therapy school.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And so I was just like, that's just looks like more money debt wise. So I was like, I'll just get the graduate diploma, which in the United States, because I did my studies in Australia, in the United States, it's like the equivalent of a grad certificate. So it's a specialization in something, but it's not necessarily like a master's. It was going to be a master's if I had done my second year, but when I realized, I'm not going to be able to be a therapist right after I get done, I was like, yeah, I'm good with just the graduate diploma.
Yeah, what a crock. You know, you've done the schooling for this very, specific sort of therapy. You know, why have to go for a more generalized is wild.
Funny.
But yeah. And also,
funny.
How dare you say that we should teach more than just abstinence in schools?
Could you imagine?
Yeah. Not here in North Kakalaki.
No. No.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Or some people don't even understand what they're going through when they go through puberty.
Yes.
No.
Oh my God. That is the scariest part about things. Just speaking as a penised individual who grew up, in the male teaching of that, they don't cover really anything beyond here's how you put on a condom. Once you get into by the way, high school age, where there's a lot of folks that knew had already had sex and some people already had kids. It's just wild to me, the amount of, if I'm to be honest, the amount of people my age who still don't understand basic female anatomy and basic vaginal anatomy. It's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, they don't do a good job of teaching vagina owners either, to be honest.
Yeah, I figured. Oh, you don't get the class?
What class?
Oh, that's that inside joke about the sorry. Yeah, that went completely off rails. It was the okay, we're gonna get into this
it's
for a
like
second.
the Mean Girls class where it's the gym teacher basically promoting abstinence.
Yeah.
And the chalkboard just says like sex ed 101, and it's like, don't have sex or you'll die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you'll get pregnant and die.
Yeah. No, what I was making fun of was an individual who will not be named, but they had mentioned how like people are taught how to give blowjobs, but
No, we're not taught that.
No.
Unfortunately, but that's okay. That's all right. So one of the beautiful things about sex, though, is making the decision to share your body with others if you so choose to. You don't ever have to. You can always just keep your body to yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the beautiful things about open relationships and ethical non-monogamy is being able to have these experiences with other people and like, what does your body do? Cool. This is what my body does. Like, does this feel good or whatnot? So I feel like open relationships still have a pretty negative stigma on them, unfortunately. A lot of and I think I want to say I think that comes from like a cheating culture.
Well, I mean, I think that that may be a part of it, but it's also rooted a lot in patriarchy, control of bodily autonomy, and just the fact that the prevailing, there's at least societally here in the U.S., the prevailing, picture of coupling is monogamy, and then, well, if we're going to be realistic, polygamy when it comes to the LDS here in the States.
Yeah, not only that, but I was also going to say it's very much rooted in religion.
Yes,
so
very much so.
A lot of it is, and because we are very much a
puritanical society.
That that they're always just promoting like, you can only have one man, you can only have one wife. It's man and wife. It's not husband and wife. It is man and wife. So it's which goes back to the patriarchal society. So it is that is what is seen as the relationship or the like couple that should be.
And to step outside of that is scary. It's scary because we've been taught and raised our whole lives that it's, you find that person, you marry that person, you have kids with that person, you die with that person. And it's scary to step out of the norms of that and go, no, actually, it's okay to love more than one person. It's okay. I actually started to look at my friendships more as a polycule because I genuinely love my friends. I genuinely care for them, and just because I don't have a sexual relationship with them doesn't make our relationship any less valid. So, how did you discover that you were poly?
So for me, it started out. I had always had like the relationships I've had in the past have been very far and few. I had mainly just male relationships with a single male partner, but none of them ever were really that great. I had a lot of trauma with that, which caused for a very long time where I was actually celibate, but not with myself. Let me say, I was exploring my whole body myself, just not with a partner. And it just happened in the end of 2022. I was meeting up with a friend for drinks, and she just brought up the idea. She was like, how would you feel about like if we entered into a sexual relationship? And I was just like, okay, first of all, the fact that we're having a conversation about this over drinks before it even occurs is amazing to me. And then I was like, the fact that you're attracted to me, I'm like, I didn't realize this, but that is fabulous because I'm also attracted to you. So this makes complete sense that I'm like, okay, sure. And the fact that we had the conversation before even going into it was great. And we didn't actually do anything. Eventually, I actually met her husband as well at a bar at another time. And then that's when we all kind of were like, how would you feel about entering into a relationship with us sexually? And I was like, okay. I was like, yeah.
With both of them?
With both of them. Yeah. So I was just like, I had been introduced to what poly is and all of that when I was actually in my sexology program in 2018, because being in that program, you are immersed with all types of people, all types of relationships, because that is part of the learning process. But also the people in the program were very diverse in their relationship styles. It was one of the best times I've had where I was able to actually have like genuine examples of lived experiences of like trans people being poly, and also just having not just like one trans friend. It was like, oh, I know at least 5 people in my program who are trans. And it's like, you don't necessarily get that out in the normal world where, especially in the US, it's like they're in danger. Their safety is in danger. So it's like they're not being probably as open with everyone as they were when I was in my program, because that's what we're studying. So it's like you're going to have more access to that. So that was probably my first experience. And then it made it more comforting for me then to understand how they can have these relationships, because they are very open and having this strong communication. And so like fast forwarding to like 2022, when we were having these discussions, I was like, I don't feel as uncomfortable as I probably did before I went and studied sexology with the idea. And I was like, I've had a lot of failed relationships, and I was like, and this is the first time I felt like they actually care about my feelings, my wants, my needs. And it's more than one person. And I'm like, wow, if we're doing this, like this should be what a healthy relationship is you're having these open and honest conversations. And so before we even like stepped into the bedroom, that was what we were doing. And I'm like, this is great. And so we entered into that, and I said up front, I was like, I need to know what this is, because with past failed relationships, I have fallen in love with them way before they have, and then they aren't in love with me, and it became an issue of getting my own feelings hurt because that was not communicated. And so it was very communicated up front that this is a friends with benefits type of relationship. There is no emotional attachment, so don't fall in love with us. You know, it's just like, good. As long as I go into that knowing it, it's more fun for everyone.
Yeah.
And so that's what it was. So it was like, you know, we would go to kink events, and then after the kink party, we would go home and have sex with each other, and then we'd go to bed, and it would be great. And they were ethically non-monogamous. So they were very, their risk profile was very high. So in like polyamorous terms, that means that they did not want to have multiple partners. They did not want to have their partner have multiple partners, because once you do that, the risk of, you know, infections or other things start to slowly pop up, because the more partners you have, the more open you are to that type of risk, you know, like infection spreading, and things of that nature. And so it was, I was like, okay, this is fine, because I'm not really seeking any other partners at the time. And so it worked out for a few months. And then eventually I wanted to have another partner, and it became something where we were like, we can't agree on this. I ended up having another partner, and they were like, okay, we're going to end it here, which was fine. It was a mutual agreement that we were all like, okay, we're done. That's cool.
And it was communicated
And
about
it was, yeah,
stuff
it was
beforehand.
Yeah, so it was like we're all still friends. We're still amicably, friends and everything, and there's no issues there. So it wasn't like one of these big things like you cheated on me type of situation. It was like, cool, we have had our fun, but now we're done. And I knew that wasn't for me later on, because I was like, at that time I did want to explore my sexuality more. And I was just like, this is very controlling, and I didn't like that as much. So we just came to the agreement that it was like, all right, we have had this fun, moving on. And so I had like one sexual partner after that, and then turned out they were a piece of shit. And but out of that, I met my partner that I have now, my I call her my life partner. And I'm like, so thanks for that, but fuck you for everything else. And so
silver linings.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So
Everything's a lesson.
yeah. So I after that was just like, cool. And so now I am in a poly relationship that we used to have a massive polycule. So like my partner used to have me, her husband, and then another male and female partner. And so like our polycule was very big on her side, and then her husband also had another partner as well. And so it was like I was just kind of on my little lonely island, but I wasn't seeking out any other partners. I was just like, I can have fun with you and your partners if they're open to that, and they were. So it was just like a lot of fun. But like I said, with the risk profile thing, this was a little different because her partners also had partners. And so it becomes like when we say polycule, like we at one point had to write out like the tree of everyone's partners and their partners. And it was like pure chaos, but like we all communicated with each other. So it made sense. And like when you are in the kink community, and I'll be honest, this is part of why I kind of liked the kink community in this sense. And then like going to swinger parties and where kink is involved. It's not just like everyone's fucking everyone. They a lot of times beforehand will have you in so we usually do it in a Discord channel where everyone shares their sexual history, or at least their most recent test results. So it's like you're not going into like some sort of party not knowing if anyone's fucking been tested and knows that they have, certain things. So like some people in the community have herpes. Cool. Herpes is one of the, and I'm just going to harp on the stigma of this because it does bother me as someone who studied sexology. Herpes is one of the most like prominent STIs that we have in society. It is also one of the easiest ones to spread because if it can live on something for up to like 5 days, I think, don't quote me on that. I don't have the stats anymore because my brain has left the building with those like up front. It might be 3 days, not 5. 5
more than 24 hours is a lot.
Correct. Yeah, it's more than 24 hours. So like it could be sitting on a toilet seat, and let's say you sit on it and you also have an open sore and you got it. And it's also that there's the mouth, HSV2, or you can have it in your genitalia. And it's like, you can have it in one of those two places and then have it contract the other place. Or you can have it in just one of them. So like, my partner has it on her mouth. It's not even genital, but it's the mouth. And it's like, we didn't know this until we went and got tested. The other issue with herpes testing is unless you have an active sore, it is so hard to test. And be accurate.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, there are so many folks who are completely asymptomatic.
Oh, absolutely.
Doctors don't even test for it.
Yeah, a lot of times they won't even test unless you ask specifically.
Oh, yeah, I had to ask. And like, I'm not like afraid to say it, but I have tested positive, but I have never had any open sores or anything. But because of that, I've been like very, sensitive about how I share things now.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I may only have it mouth wise because that's how my partner has it, and like we've fucking kissed each other all the time. So it's like, who knows if like it's been a zit or if it was an actual sore.
Yeah.
And that happened. Like, we don't know, but it's just ironic that like for that specific STI, it is so hard to actually test the accuracy of if you have it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And also the fact that there are so many false positive tests and false negative tests.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yes. So it is because I've talked with multiple doctors about it. Because like when I initially tested, I think I did it through LabCorp or Qualtrics. It was one of those two. Or is it Qualtrics? I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
It's one of LabCorp. It's
them.
LabCorp or like whatever the equivalent to LabCorp is.
Yeah,
There's like two testing sites that are just lab testing. And it came back positive. And then I went to my actual doctor and she was like, there is a possibility that this is a false positive because it's really hard to test. And that's when I learned, oh my God, like, so it can be positive, but like not actually, and have all of these crazy things going on, and never have
A flare up.
A flare up. Yeah. And so that does bother me, I think, the most. And this is, I'm so sorry that I'm going on this like
No, go for it.
Completely
tangent.
Go off on it because
Yeah.
the stigma behind it is insane, especially since it's completely manageable. Even if you have outbreaks and whatnot, the medicine is out there.
Oh yeah, and and I've gotten the medicine just in case I ever have a flare up, but I've never needed it. So it's like that's part of, I think, being when you're in the like kink and swinger community is very they're okay with it. It's like, cool, you have the meds, you know your status, you know what to do. And
I'm going to trust you're not going to do something in a flare up.
Right. Yeah. And there's actually, and it's really great because it makes it so the people who are positive can still have sex and everything. It's just they're going to be responsible with wearing protection and being as thoughtful as they can with the people they're having sex with. Yeah. And they know that going into it. And it's like with our abstinence fucking culture, it's so hard, and it makes it even worse when people are positive that to want to share their status with other people or potential partners. And I think my one thing with that is, and I've learned this now, is like I don't necessarily tell people that I'm clean. Like, clean is not
clean
like
is a terrible
clean
word.
makes
Terrible
I think the stigma even harsher.
Yes.
Because it has nothing to do with cleanliness.
Nope. Nope.
It has nothing to do with that. It is, your status. It's not that I'm clean. It's no, I know my status. I know that yes, I'm positive for HSV2. However, I know how to treat it. It is treatable. And I know when I have a flare up, I'm not going to fuck anyone, or I'm not going to engage in a way that would potentially spread it.
Yes.
So that is the thing with that. And so sort of going back into why I appreciate that, especially when I became poly and everything, was just knowing everyone's status and knowing it's like it's just a
thing.
It's just a topic of conversation.
Yeah.
It is nothing like incredibly important where you have to like feel shame or guilt around it. These are facts. These are things that you are going to be. This is my risk profile. If you are interested in this, come on in. I'm interested in you. If not, that's totally fine. We can still have fun at the parties and communicate with each other. And like, depending on, so certain parties I go to, there's a pool. So you can still hang out in the pool, do what you want to do, watch people get hit on a, like, St. Andrew's Cross or whatever.
Hell yeah.
Or watch people get suspended on a rig.
Yeah.
And just not have sex with them. Like it's that easy.
Yeah.
And I just wish that like we weren't teaching abstinence and we were teaching this more important, I think, life lesson that it's okay to have certain things and live with them.
And if I can interject, if you do shame people for it, fuck you. Just fuck you.
Yeah.
Because it's a shitty thing to do. It really is.
It is. It is. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
us,
That was awesome.
I do think that goes kind of hand in hand with the stigma of open relationships because people just assume, oh, you sleep around, you're dirty. No,
we're actually probably more clean than the monogamous couples who fucking cheat on each
other.
other.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
because you're having the conversations. You're sharing the updates with the people that you're wanting to be intimate with. So, absolutely, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So you are in a polycule. Mm-hmm. You live with your partner, yes?
Yes.
Okay. How did that come about? How did we go from separate to same household?
So, okay, initially we started out, and this is actually kind of funny. So, me and my partner started dating actually on my birthday 2 years ago. Whoops. 2 years ago. And it was actually very funny and like out of the blue. And we still are just like 2 years later shocked about like how we came together. Because I just made like a post on FET one time and was like, I have never had birthday sex. And I was like, I just want to go and I'm a Taurus, so I love food. I love the luxurious things. So for my birthday, I'm not a big celebratory person when it comes to birthdays and things like that. I don't actually like the attention, but I do like to eat and I like to drink.
Hell yeah.
And so on FET, I was just like, for my birthday this year, I was like, for 2020, I had the shittiest birthday ever because we were in lockdown.
Yeah.
I turned 30 in 2020 and I like couldn't even fucking celebrate the big milestone. So I was like, and I've had a couple of years after that where it's just like the birthdays were meh. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I want to go out to eat with some good friends. I want us to have like a nice meal. And I was like, I want to have a couple of drinks at William & Company. Or Wilco, if you're familiar in Raleigh. And I was like, and I would like to have sex. Like, I just, like, it was just like, can we just have food, drink, sex? Like,
yeah.
Simple questions to, or requests to have fulfilled. And my partner sent me a DM on FET. I was just like, I can help with that.
Yes.
And she never thought I would answer. And I was just like, oh, you have no idea. I'm like, that made my day. I was like, oh my God.
You're just so down.
Someone actually said yes to this. Like,
this pretty human wants to do something with me.
Yes. And they planned the whole fucking thing.
Yes.
So I didn't have to do anything. I was like, holy shit. Like, ask and you shall receive.
Yes. That's hot.
That was pretty fun. What was the food?
We had sushi. And I was like,
hell yeah.
Because she was like, how do you feel about sushi? I was like, I love sushi. I was like, so we went to a sushi place I'd never been to, but it was actually like really good. And we ordered a bottle of sake, and it ended up being like my actual formal couple, another friend of ours from the kink community, actually another two friends. And so it was a small gathering, which I was totally fine with. I was like, I don't need a big group. I was like, again, not a huge celebratory person for that. And so I was like, cool. Got a nice little intimate dinner with friends. I was like, if anyone wanted to join for drinks after, totally fine. If you don't, we went and had drinks after. And so William & Company usually has like a DJ that plays really good music to dance to if you want to. Like, it is a bar, so you can just sit down and not do anything, or you can dance if you want. And so like we danced a little bit, had a few drinks, and then me and my now partner went to a hotel. She booked a hotel for that night for just me to stay at. She was like, I'm probably not going to stay, but I'll book the room and we can stay there. And I was like, okay. So we stayed at a hotel, and she, I'm in the kink community, obviously. I'm a switch, which means that I like to be, a top or a bottom, depending on how I'm feeling. More so on the bratty bottom side. So
hell yeah.
I like to be hit and then bitch about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely fucking love that.
But
Why do you do that?
but it's actually funny because I'm like, I ask for it and then I'm like, why?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the best thing ever, sit there and just completely be non-compliant. And they're like, well, why did you do that? Well, I don't fucking know why.
So like, I just was like, do whatever you want. And she like
Awesome.
beat my ass.
Yes.
We brought our implements, impact toys and things to do. And then she also, so like we're all about the Hitachis. So
Yeah.
Yes.
so got that involved, and we had sex or whatever, and then I got to sleep by myself in a hotel room, and she went home, and I was just like, well, this is nice.
You just got the
Yeah.
full princess treatment.
You
that day.
did.
It was
Sold.
it was Imogen Day that day.
Yes. And then I don't think we were exclusive by that point, but at that time I was just like, this is where I feel like our relationship started.
Yeah, in your brain, you're already like, so when are we making this official?
Okay, so funny story. So like later on, this is really funny. So like my birthday's in May, and so like June, I moved into. So they had 2 houses at the time, and they were using one as more of like a rental property. So if like someone needed to stay there, they could. Also, it was more of a spot where they thought an older relative would retire to. So that's also why they were keeping it in their property. And so I ended up moving in there. So like almost an actual like U-Haul lesbian. I was
Yes.
I'm like within a month of us dating moved in.
Yes.
Oh man.
But there's something about women, though. There's just something about the way women can connect and communicate that we're like, oh, yeah.
I love that so much because in the pre-interview, you made it seem like, we were living in separate houses and now you're dropping this nugget. And I absolutely love that.
So I moved into the house that they don't live in, but it was like a place they had open for residents. And I was also thankful for it because I had been living with my parents just because it's so fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
You don't have to
area.
justify that.
Oh, yeah. And the
Yeah.
RDU area is crazy expensive.
Yeah.
It is. And like, I'm not ashamed to say this, but I like filed for bankruptcy 2 years ago and, or almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years ago in March. And I am paying what would be a monthly rent for probably a like nice 2-bedroom apartment in like downtown Raleigh. That is how much my bankruptcy, because I had to file Chapter 13. If you're not aware, Chapter 7 is where you have all of your debt and you don't have to pay anything. I don't make that low enough income. I make an income that requires me to pay, which is a Chapter 13. So if you ever file for bankruptcy, just know, if you make enough money, you will have to pay the government back.
Okay.
So I am
Noted.
I am paying.
Good to know.
I am paying what I would consider a monthly rent in bankruptcy. So I was like, I'm living with my parents because I can't afford to live anywhere else with the amount of money I'm having to pay. And she knew that. And we also, a lot of being in a relationship, a very intimate one, is sharing all of your, this is the other thing that I like about the poly community, is they want to know what your triggers are. They want to know what is a problem that you want to avoid in the bedroom or even in life in general. Yeah. And so like one of the things I brought up very early on with her was I have financial triggers. I have a lot of financial drama and trauma that I did not just come upon myself. This was a like generational thing, family wise, that I've been dealing with. And I was like, that is one thing I do not want us to have be a problem. And I was like, but it is a problem for me, and it will be something that I will immediately shut down if I am asked to do something financially that I cannot do. And she was like, we're not going to worry about that. She was like, everything is covered. This is why you can have this place. And we came up with an agreement that made it so I was not, I didn't have to pay to live there, but I had to do other things at their actual residence to help them.
Yeah.
So it was, I mean, it's kind of like if we lived on a commune, these are the things that you would do instead of fucking making people pay.
Yeah.
So,
Money ain't real.
So, you know, like I had to go over to their house at least once a week and, you know, clean the first floor of their house because they have a lot going on and it is very hard for them to just clean the first floor of their house.
Yeah.
Completely understandable.
And if they have people that are coming over, they're like, it's really embarrassing if we don't have the time, and it's stressful. And they're like, if you don't mind doing this, I'm like, okay, to be completely honest, I love to vacuum. So I was like,
hell yeah.
I will happily come over and clean. Yeah. And then I had to cook dinner at least once a week at the house. And I was like, this is my dream. I have been wanting to cook for people since undergrad, and I had a roommate who didn't want me to, like, we didn't share meals together.
Aww.
So I was just like,
I love that for you though.
I'm like, this makes me happy. And so like in June, I moved into the other house, and I was like, oh, I finally have my place on my own again. But I also have my partner who's not far away that I can drive to and like hang out with. And then it evolved into me moving into their house in December. Of that year. So moving into the U-Haul lesbian, it's like I moved from one house and then like not 6 months later moved to like their house, living with her husband, and our 3 kids. Yeah. And it is like pure chaos, but it's also like such a loving environment that I have like never been happier. And it's so I moved from like what someone would say is like a like non-nesting partner to a nesting partner.
Yeah.
But it's worked out for us. Like it is, we have 3 kids. We have 3 adults in the house. We can control somewhat the environment.
I mean, yeah, kids are a lot. So,
yeah. So
any
like
extra hands
one
you can
adult
get
per child helps.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you know, in a classroom setting where there's like one teacher and then you have, or at least nowadays, it's like you have 20 kids or more.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot imagine having to control that many. But it's worked out and it's been great. And you brought this up before when we were doing like pre-stuff, you know, do you consider being, what did you say?
Kitchen, I think it's called kitchen table or dining table.
Kitchen table poly. And I was like, might have been considered that when I was living at the other house, like from June to December, because I was coming over after work and the evenings to sort of help when the kids got home from school and like, you know, doing dinner or whatever. But when I moved in with him, I was like, I don't think I would consider that's what we are anymore because I feel like it's kind of developed outside of that.
Yes.
It's evolved.
Or evolved into something else. And we've just, like, it almost was just like a natural thing. It was nothing out of the norm. And like, even the kids don't really care. They're like, I'm their mom. I used to jokingly be like, I'm their auxiliary mom, but no, but no, they actually call me mom now. So
that's
it's
so
like,
cute.
it's so fresh. And yeah, and like we've been together for 2 years now.
Yeah.
So it's insane. But like our polycule it was very big and then it slowly started to get smaller. And that's just how it works. I don't know if that's where we're going to flow into this conversation or not yet, but I can go into that.
Yeah, we can ebb into that. I think that's a good thing to bring up whenever it comes to polys and polycules is that they do kind of have a natural life cycle where they expand and contract and, you know, people move on, partners change, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It doesn't change your value at all.
No.
Right.
And it doesn't even necessarily mean the relationship has to completely end with that person. You know, you can still have friendships, you know, acquaintanceships, what have you.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's what happened with my friends that are the E&M couple is I think they actually just kind of completely ended their type of poly stuff and were, from my understanding, just as an outsider now, is that they just kind of do impact play with people and they don't do any sexual play with people anymore. So
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. And that's kind of how, I mean, you don't know until you try type of situation. In my experience, that's kind of how it was. And So like when I joined this lovely polycule I'm in, my partner had a husband and then 2 other partners, and then their partners had so one of them, the male partner, had another female partner.
Mm-hmm.
And then the female partner had a husband, and then probably I would consider like one other, or like, I don't, so this is kind of funny, but like both the husband of her female partner and then her male partner shared the same partners.
Mm-hmm.
Like they,
Whoa.
for some reason, had
An overlap.
likes in the same women.
It happens.
But it was funny because they're like they look completely different, and you're just kind of like,
Huh.
okay,
Interesting.
it's funny. It works out that way. So we did kind of actually have a little bit of control over, like, or not control, but I guess knowledge of like who's sleeping with who.
Yes.
Which made it a little bit easier. But over time, things changed.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to a certain time period where my partner got a job and needed to focus more on the job and less on the extracurriculars that are happening. And so like one partner ended things a lot earlier than any of us expected. Like she didn't even have her job yet. And the other one ended things like right before her birthday. So both of them were a little bit of a traumatic end for her. So after that, we kind of were like, okay, maybe we should evaluate what our polycule looks like right now. And do we want to keep it open the way we have it right now, or do we want to close it? And we were on the verge of closing it. And then my partner's husband, who is my metamor. So if you're not familiar with like...
Yeah, perfect segue to bring up metamor, because I was actually going to bring up how balancing that many metamors is like.
Yes. So when she has or had like multiple partners, like her female partner, I considered my metamor along with her husband being my metamor. So like metamor is basically like
Your partner's partner.
your partner's partner that you are also being intimate with, and potentially having like agreements of it's okay to have sex with them without your partner being there, as long as you've all had that communication. And usually for me, I think it's just because I've had trauma in the past, and I do want to make sure everyone is aware, and I don't want to have like some sort of secrecy happening.
Yeah.
That I will tell them, like, or I will actually ask my partner, I'm like, are you okay with this before anything happens? Like, would you be okay if I initiated this with them before I even do it? That's just me, because I don't want any conflict. I'm like, let's not have conflict.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm actually not that type of person who just willy-nilly is like, I'm going to go fuck your partner right now. Is that okay? Type of thing. It's like, I think about it, but anyways, I've actually never done it though, which is really funny, but I will ask anyways. But it's like, I still feel, and like we've been together for 2 years, but I still feel very awkward and being like, can I fuck your husband without you here? Like, I can't, I haven't reached that comfort level yet where she knows it's okay. They both know it's okay, but they're also both not going to push it on me.
Yeah.
They want it to be like, I come to that willingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with asking for a little, extra level of consent there and checking in. So.
Reinsurance is nice.
Yeah. So anyways, they're my metamors, or they were. The female is no longer in our polycule, so it's just the husband is my metamor, and he actually calls me his meta wife. So it's really funny. I mean, like, we have a text chat, and it's like wife and meta wife.
Aw. I love it.
Within your polycule, do you guys have any metas where someone has a nested partner that's not in the polycule?
No.
Oh, okay.
So like everyone's other partners live separately. And at this point, it's just the husband who actually has another play partner
Gotcha.
that once in a while they'll engage. But yeah, for the most part, we have kind of closed it off. We haven't officially closed it, but we've gone from being very open and wild and crazy to we need to focus more on our work and family. And we're just at that stage in our lives where it's like, it's more realistic that we do that, especially because of like time that we have.
Hey, you only have but so many hours.
Yeah.
Life is life.
Yeah. So we've like almost closed it at that point, but for us, it's working out. Like it's what we needed. And we kind of came to agreement with the other, other partners that have now left the Polysecure that their time and energy and focus is on other things. And it's like, okay, we are not on the same page. Totally fine. We are going to do our separate things. And so that's how it's kind of gone. And there's like no hard feelings there in some senses. There is in other senses because of the way that things, the way that the cards fell. But for the most part, it's, we're not going to go to a bar and immediately hit someone.
I get that.
Yeah. I mean, talking about, the reason I bring up that meta question is because Buxom had a partner and, I would consider they were a meta for me, but obviously it was a non-physical relationship between me and them. But, we would, communicate with each other, remain friendly, I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? Kind of stuff. And it's always important to understand, this is just my little segment I can kind of fold into this. It's always important to kind of understand what someone's like level of comfortability is with that. And it doesn't have to look the same for every situation, right? Because there are some situations where there are metas who are just, I'm fine with you going and being with other people, but I do not want to have a relationship with these people. That's, an acceptable way as well. And it does run the gamut all the way to, yes, you can have a poly relationship with others. And, we can also have a physical relationship.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And I have had sex with like her other partners and former partners, but I was always with her. So it was like, that's where I still feel like I don't know that I can have sex with my meta without you being there type of thing. It's like I still feel a little uncomfortable because like I don't know when I have been having sex with them and she's there, it's like I get to see the pleasure she gets out of it. And I'm like, this feels awkward when it's like she's not there to have that additional pleasure. So I'm like, still not there yet where I feel comfortable being like, yeah, I'm gonna sleep with your husband and you're not here.
Now, your partner has collared you. So what does that mean for you guys?
Oh, yes. So it's actually kind of funny. We went into the collared conversation like it was brought up if you are in the kink community, you are familiar with sloshes, munches, those things. So basically those are gatherings where people from the community can come together outside of a kink event and just chat and hang out and get to see people in the wild.
In a vanilla atmosphere.
Yes. And so we were actually like at one of the sloshes and like talking with people, and I was wearing a necklace that looked very collary. But was not. It was like something I got on Fashion Nova.
Hey,
And I was just wearing it, and like one of our mutual friends was like, oh, are you collared? And like I looked over at my partner and I just kind of like smiled and like was very demure. and she was like, no, we're not. And then I was like, but we could be. And that was kind of like how that conversation came up. And she was like, we had like after that night kind of chatted about it, and she was like, I want to know what you think when you think what collaring is, because a lot of people have different definitions for it.
Yes, absolutely.
And a lot of different boundaries, expectations, things of that nature.
Yes.
And so I was like, this is what I think it is. I think it is that I am committing to you, that I am yours, and that like you are my partner. Like like I am going to come to you for things before I do anything. I am going to like I am serious about it. It is not like I'm just wearing this pretty collar and it's like it's just a decoration when we're at events, blah blah blah. No, it was me like I love you to the point where I am willing to wear something as a sign of that love and commitment to you. Mm-hmm. A lot of people call like, well, not a lot, but I know one person in the kink community who calls their wedding ring a finger collar.
I mean, hey, the thing is, the collar can be,
it can be an anklet, a
whatever
bracelet.
works for you. Yeah. You know, whenever Buxom and I were looking at selecting one for her, we were our kink risk profile was different. Mm-hmm. We were a lot more conservative about it. So her collar is it's a simple necklace. But in the back, it has a set screw. Mm-hmm. But, we've actually been thinking about moving to an eternity collar. It's just, they're so fucking expensive.
They are. They're so pretty.
They're so pretty. Need to save up for one.
I know.
And I know, I keep looking at that.
On that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So mine kind of graduated. So like we started with, so when we decided that, yes, I want to be collared, it was a decision that like my partner chose it. I was like, I'm not having any to say in what you're choosing. I was like, I will let you choose.
I love that.
And I will wear it. Mm-hmm. Like, so she found something on Etsy that worked.
I know that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And at the time it was really cool because, I have ADHD and I like to fidget with things. Uh-huh. And so she got me a collar that actually had like a heart in the middle of a ring and you could twist it around. Mm-hmm. The heart could like twist around and it had like a lock key look in it. Mm-hmm. But it was an eternity collar. Like it was like a chain link kind of thing, but very, very tiny. And as soon as she hooked it on, it was on. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I don't have it anymore because I had surgery earlier this year, and you have to take off all of your metal jewelry. Mm-hmm. And so we took it off with the pliers, and then it was like, maybe we'll put it back on. And we ended up not because by that point in time, I actually already had an eternity collar, and so I was wearing both. And with this one, so with like this is actually like the brand eternity collar. You have actually an Allen wrench that screws it in.
Screw.
Mm-hmm. And so we just put that back on after my surgery, and I've just had this on, and nobody has ever questioned it. Like I get a lot of compliments on it.
That's the thing that blew my mind about it is like every time I've talked to someone who has like the eternity style, the ring style like that, the first thing I'm always like was like, well, I mean, does anyone ever ask? I'm like, no, I mean, honestly, most people have no idea and they just think it's a fashion choice.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I get compliments on it all the time. And like, I bet 90% of those people have no fucking clue what it is.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think if I had this first. I don't think I had this yet. No, I didn't have this yet. So I had like the Etsy one. Mm-hmm. And then right before Christmas, I got a ring. Mm-hmm. And this is like 2 carats. It ain't a diamond. We're not. Listen,
no, look, we're not shaming people's statuses. No. We're not shaming people's stones. No. We don't shame.
No. It is, but it's also not cubic zirconia. It's the I can't remember what it's called, but it's like something similar, but less expensive. So like we are not like money crazy people in my polycule. And I say that in the way of like, yes, we do like some expensive things, but like me and my partner love to go to Goodwill. We love to go thrifting.
Oh yeah.
Like we are very much like not as materialistic about certain things. So like the ring I was not expecting it. Mm-hmm. We had earlier that day actually gone thrifting and I found this like adorably cute mouse nutcracker that it looks like the mouse from the Nutcracker, the dance.
cute.
Yeah.
And it's like on a block of cheese. And it has a sword, and on the sword it has a piece of the cheese. And I was just like, this is adorable. I was like, I do not care that this came from Goodwill and it's only like 50 cents. I have to have it.
Yeah.
Because it's a 50 cents, you gotta have it. Come on now, right?
I also am like, I do love the Nutcrackers at Christmas time. I will get the weird ones too. Like, let me get a spooky one.
Noted.
And so we had gone thrifting that day, and we're like going through the stuff in the bedroom, and she's like, oh look, like, did you see this on the Nutcracker? And like I was like, oh yeah, I know, like when you move its mouth, like its little beard goes down. And she's like, no, look. And I look over, and the fucking ring is on the knife. The sword.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh,
and I was like,
that's so smart.
I was like, oh my God. And I didn't even say yes. I just like put it on. And she was like, you didn't say yes. I was like, I don't need to say yes. Like, you already know.
Actions speak louder than words.
Actions do speak louder than words, yes.
And so I was like, I mean, like I had already said yes with the collar, but I was like, getting the ring was like really cool. Then having to explain it to my family was a little bit. But I will be honest and say, like, not everyone has that kind of comfortability with their families, and I really hate that for them. But I'm being genuinely serious. I do hate that, like, we cannot all be our authentic selves with our family because sometimes they don't understand.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
My family does, in a sense. So like it did take me a while to say, oh, I'm pretty much wifed up. We just can't legally be married. And we've jokingly already
Wifed up.
I mean, like,
no, I mean, I love it. I just love the term. It's just funny.
Yeah. Well, like, we've jokingly said, okay, well, after your husband dies, like, we're going to the courthouse and getting married. And like, he knows. He's like, oh, cool. Like, go for it.
Yeah.
It'll just be super late down the line. And we're maybe thinking that, like, maybe like some of the relatives that are not super comfortable with it will maybe have passed by then. And so it won't be as like bad or hard to explain.
I mean, hey, look, hate does age and kill your ass quicker. So
It does. It does.
So it did take me actually a couple months to like fully explain it to my mom, but like my mom is one of the most open-minded people, and so like my family knows. I told my sister first. Like my sister and I are so linked up that it is like we are completely open, but I'm not with my like parents about a lot of things. But with this, I was just like, well, I gotta fucking explain this ring at some point. And so at Thanksgiving last year, I explained it. And they were fine with it. They were like, oh, that's great. We're obviously not gonna be married anytime soon, but I'm gonna wear this ring. So if I'm ever out in public, people know to fuck off.
Yeah.
Or at least you
well,
hope.
Yeah.
At least
I
you
was
hope.
about to say, you know,
That
the
does not
thing
always-
is there's a number of penis individuals who do not care and
Yeah.
will just heckle you nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it is a slight deterrent if someone sees that. And then I, after Christmas, got the e-collar because the eternity collar, not the Elizabethan collar for dogs, or cats.
Or it could be.
I mean, hey, yeah, that's the thing is, you know, there's pet play. So,
Yeah, I'm diving
Yeah.
into that pup play.
Yeah, I mean, you did look real cute in your little alien collar.
But like they haven't really asked about it either. They're just like, it's really funny. Some people are just like, oh, that's a really cute necklace. Oh, thanks.
You're
Yeah.
always wearing that necklace.
They have not caught on to that.
It is fascinating how like people who do have, you know, eternal, you know, collars, what have you, how little people like catch on to that. Yeah.
Yes, my kids ask all the time, why don't I take it off? And I'm like, because I can't take it off. I'm like, your mom or dad can take it off for me, but I don't think they want to. And that's kind of how I say it. And I'm like, and I'm like, I really like wearing it. Like, I try to kind of make it a positive thing where I'm like, I like it. So that's why it stays on. And they're little kids. So they just go,
oh, yeah.
Okay.
No object permanence, though. So, here in the next couple of days, the same question's going to happen.
Oh, yes, it will. But it's always, I always give them the same answer. I'm like, I like wearing it. Why would I take it off?
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, it goes from there. And so, like, ours is more like a commitment to, and I also like wearing it because it is a reminder, because there have been times, and I have anxiety, I have depression, I have ADHD. So I have what I like to call the holy trinity of like mental illness, where it is a physical reminder that if I'm ever feeling like I'm unsafe in my own body or mind, that they are there for me. And they have reiterated that over and over again. They said, this is why this is part of that agreement. And
that's good.
And it is one thing that, like, there have been times where I've been deeply depressed or like felt very, very anxious, and I just go to it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I know I'm safe. I am home. Everything is fine. And that is like an additional reminder for me if I've needed it, and it's something that I can come back to and sort of be like, okay, everything's going to work out. Whatever is happening right now with me mentally is going to subside. It may take a little time, but it is going to subside.
Yeah.
And that's the wonderful thing about poly, is that this individual has that ability to have that love for two separate people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all do. I think we all have the ability to love. I think it's a matter of working through various traumas to allow ourselves the freedom to love, and to allow the ones we love the freedom to love.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about finding your own security in yourself as well. But I completely agree with like it being a collar being a security blanket, because I'll be anxious and the first thing I do is like, nope, I'm good. Like, where's my husband? I don't know, but I'm gonna fidget with this. Yeah, it's a really good blanket. So you mentioned coming out to your parents. I kind of want to use that as a segue to how would you suggest for those to come to their already existing relationships and introduce a more open lifestyle? Do you have suggestions or tips for that?
I think going into it, or not going into it, but if you were, okay, so can you give me an example? So I can make sure I'm going on the right path here.
Yeah. So I'll use us. We've been together for 17 years. We've been monogamous for majority of those 17 years. So how would one of us potentially approach the other about expanding that into an open relationship without the other partner, and luckily this is something that we've worked on ourselves, but without the other partner like feeling less than?
For me, it was very much going into the conversation with a very open mind and knowing that communication has to be there.
Yes.
Yep.
Communication is key in poly. Like, if you are not open with how you are feeling and how things are going, and not expressing that to your partner and partners, there's going to be issues. There's going to, like, it's going to be like the fire that slowly starts. And then if you don't say something when it's just that teeny tiny fire, it's going to become an explosion. And so it's better to put that out as soon as possible than let it, simmer.
Yeah.
And so for me, it would be suggesting making sure that, like, there's no distractions when you have that conversation. There's nothing there that can, like for our kids, it's like the kids can't be around, because then you can't have that serious conversation and then have them bump up and be like, hey, can we watch TV down here? No, we're trying to have like a serious conversation. So I think every time I've had those types of conversations, when it came to, like, if I was entering into a new relationship or whatever, we actually, like, would go out to dinner or go out for drinks. And that's when we would have the conversation, because you're in a public space. So like if you feel like you need to run away, like there's that safety option. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not. But it's a neutral ground. And you're able to have those types of conversations. I am weary to say, if you've been in a very long relationship with someone and they are fully monogamous and that is their state of mind forever and ever, to say, hey, I'm thinking of venturing out into exploring my bisexuality. How do you feel about that? And they being so rigid, especially if they grew up in like a very religious household, and like it is something where, because we're in the South, it's like very much ingrained that you have like one partner for your lifetime. And you have kids and they go to school and then they make more babies and blah blah blah. Like it's that whole generational thing. So it's very much that you have to go into it knowing that maybe your partner is going to put up a wall immediately when you ask those types of questions, and knowing that they may be open to it or not. And if they're not open to it, then like, where do you go from there? I feel like both have to agree, because I have seen relationships that have led to divorce because the husband was not interested, but the wife was interested in exploring others, and it did not work out.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That means that they could no longer exist as a couple, and then she got to do what she wanted to. And that type of stuff happens. Now, it is interesting when you have those like yourselves. I'm not going to speak on your behalf, but
No, you're good.
who come to an agreement that, okay, yes, I'm open to you exploring this, but I feel like we have to get these feelings out first before I can agree to blah blah blah.
Yes.
Well, and I can speak to my lived experience on that at first, and it's tragic, honest, but just throwing it out there. At first, I was like completely okay with it from a sense of like, well, yeah, I don't have any problems with that. But then, like, when the actual practice of that happened, I had to explore some feelings of jealousy and angst. Now, Buxom can attest that I did not tell her about that. And that is what I say is the kind of unfortunate bit, is that I had that dialogue and processing very internalized to myself, of being like, okay, what is this? And now what I'll say about that is that was very much so me being like, well, okay, let's think about this logically, like, because that's kind of how I process a lot of things, is very, like calculating. Which is calculating is maybe a weird way to say that, but hey, I've already said it. But for me, it was very much so a thing of, okay, let me think this through. What does this mean for me? Does it devalue me? No. Does she still care and love for me? Yes. It's very much so going through this processing, and kind of taking the time of understanding what it meant for us and what it meant for you. And that, I think, is to kind of add on to your question, right, of like, how do you bring that forward? I think the best thing to do is to, one, ensure that you have a secure relationship, a secure attachment first, which I think is what definitely helped us when you started seeing your partner, because we had a very secure relationship, but wherein there was a minor misstep with us, it wasn't a failure. When you have those feelings, those whooshes, those moments wherein you are like, whoa, wait a second. You have to do as Imogen said, there has to be that level of communication with you and your partner where you're like, hey, I'm just checking in to let you know that I'm feeling XYZ. I am processing this, in a way that feels safe and comfortable because I understand that it is not a threat or a problem per se. It's just something that I'm navigating within my own mind and body. And for me, at least in what I've understood, read, and what have you, when it comes to like taking that step, that's kind of the best way to go about it. Again, I will say that I didn't take the best way to go about it because you should always be very communicative with your partner. But it should be a thing of take it in steps to what feels accessible to you, but not harmful to you, right? Like, obviously, if you're not feeling secure enough in your relationship to where, you have these feelings like you automatically need to run or, just shut down, like that's the fire in the room. But sometimes there's just smoke. It ain't fire. There's a little burnt toast, the toaster, and that's what I had. I just had a little burnt toast going on where I was like, oh,
a little crunchy, a little hard to swallow, but
yeah, there was days where I was like, well, I'm just kind of sitting here with nothing to do, bored at home, alone, and kind of sucked. I won't lie, but then I started to understand, and I hope I'm using the term correctly, comparance? Comparance?
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm looking at the sexologist to be like, hey, 2018 knowledge.
I know what you're saying. I'm going to have to just like Google to make
Yeah,
sure.
that's
okay,
fine.
Google it.
Well, so basically, while we got the Google fact checking here going on, the terminology is essentially, it's this feeling that one gets within themselves of pleasure or joy in knowing that they're
Compersion.
Compersion.
Yes,
there
compersion.
we go.
I was like, I knew what you were going for, but I was like,
knew
let
it
me
was
just
comp
make sure.
something, and I was like, well, is it compassion? No, is it, comp claim?
No.
Insurance agent over there. No, but yeah, compersion, right? Yeah, so eventually that kind of morphed into some feelings of concursion, wherein, I would, when she's out running errands or just having fun, with my meta, I no longer felt those feelings of, detachment and, just kind of like loneliness and what have you. Because I was like, well, you know what? No, she's having a good time. And, I can find ways to entertain myself, I guess. But yeah, I mean, so not to butt in, sorry if I did. But like, from our lived experience and like my understanding, I think that's like the crucial key if you want to like approach someone is do it in a space that feels comfortable, like Imogen had stated, and make sure that you guys have just the full undivided attention of each other whenever that decision's made. And to be clear, to our folks, to our listeners, Buxom, you did very much so have these conversations before starting a partnership. I wanted it to be known that didn't just happen. And that's another thing I want to throw out there. It's okay to have those, long drawn out discussions. And then after it starts to have these feelings of like, ooh, what's going on here?
Ooh, completely. I have like similar things where for me, I am very protective of my partner.
Yeah.
I think that's just something because I love them so much that it's like, you fuck with my partner, you fuck with me. And I remember like there were a couple of times where she had like sex with certain male partners, and then like they went and slept with other people and like never came back to her, or never sort of had that like, well, how are you doing type of thing or whatever afterwards. and
No follow up.
No aftercare.
no aftercare, no follow up. And
Boo. By the way, if you don't do aftercare, again, fuck you.
and it hurt her feelings, and I would be like,
absolutely.
I would be like, fuck them, and I would be like man hating, and she would be like, she would be like,
I mean, to be fair, it's not misplaced hate, in my opinion.
Yeah.
and she would be like, are you gonna be like this with like everyone I fuck? And I'm like, if they do that,
And they do you dirty.
yeah, I'm like, no, I hope not. But it's like, I don't like seeing you upset or hurt. And I'm like, and I'm seeing this with, I'm seeing the trend. And I'm like, do I need to fucking talk to these men and be like, can y'all at least like communicate with us or like let us know when you're like, so one of them was actually one of her former partners. And I did not like the way that, like, she would come home sometimes and be super fucking upset because he would be fucking these other, so we would call them like new dolls. So they'd be like new
toys,
new community people, or they would be old community people who just like happened to like, I guess, somehow slip into his radar. And he would like, he's a rigger, so he would have them come over and he would tie with them and then he would fuck them. He wouldn't tell my partner until, he only did it once, but he didn't tell her until after the fact. And
Yeah, that's not cool.
Hit like explosion, like
it's not cool if it's not cool if that's not your dynamic. If it is an explained dynamic that's like something that you're okay with, then by all means. But clearly this was not your partner's dynamic.
Correct. That was not the dynamic. It was like, if you were going to have sex with a new partner, especially if you're going to fluid bond, you need to, and like we were all fluid bonded. So it was like, you need to let us know, because that is a health risk for not only you, because you have introduced this, it is a health risk for us. So it is, and if you're not sure what the term fluid bonded means, it means that we have had sex without condoms.
Yep.
So we are fluid bonded, actually, like literally fluid bonded. And so it is one of those things where like he had sex with someone after he tied them, and didn't tell my partner until the morning after. And she was like, all you had to do was send a simple text to me asking, is this okay, before you fucking jumped into bed. And I would have been fine with it. But you didn't. And now you're telling me after the fact, and it's like upsetting. And so I was like, fuck him.
Yeah.
And like, she was like, are you going to do this with every male partner? I'm like, I'm not going to do this with every male partner, but I'm going to do it with them or female, honestly. If they are going to hurt your feelings to this point where they can't just send a simple text to communicate, hey, I think I'm going to have sex with this person. Because what happened was it made her feel undervalued as a partner. And she was like looking at herself differently. And I'm like, you are the same person. You are still a very hot human being. You are still a loving human being. I don't understand what's wrong with this man, but you like, fuck him.
And I will say this to everyone in the RDU area. Imogen is a deathmatch fan. So I would definitely not want to fuck with this one.
But I will put up those boundaries like super quick. And it's just because of like lack of communication. And it's like, this is a suggestion. If you are going into this, you need to set what your expectations are very early on.
Yes.
Very early on. Because if you do not, things are going to like become issues. So like for me, when she's had sex with other partners, I don't mind her telling me about them. I don't mind her telling me about what happened. I actually prefer to know. For me, I prefer to know, because for me, the unknown is worse for me mentally than knowing. Now, I know for some people, they don't want to know anything.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell. I know you went and had a date with them. I don't need to know what you did. Completely fine. But for me, I'm like, I need to know, because for me, it's better for my mental state to be aware of everything. Because that helps with my jealousy. Now, jealousy is a very ugly thing.
But it's a human thing, and it does happen.
It's a response. It is a human response. It is a natural human response, especially if you love someone so much and then you see them happy with someone else and you're like, what am I doing wrong? And you're doing nothing wrong. It is that you just kind of need to go through it. And like every time that has happened, I have immediately expressed it to my partner. Like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit of jealousy, and I know it's me, it's not you. I just need to let you know that I'm feeling a little weird right now about this. And I just want to maybe have a conversation more about it, because she had another male partner who I found out later on, they were not actually having sex. They were just impact partners. But like he broke things off. So they almost had the kind of like what I would consider just a top bottom breakup.
That happens.
Where I was like, she was severely upset after that breakup. And then he came back and she was like, oh, I'm going out to dinner with him. And I was like, excuse me? I went on like I was like full rage, haven't even met the guy. And I'm like, after he did all of this, and then I come like, after telling her all of this, she's like, are you going to do this with all of my partners? And I'm like, no, but I don't like the way that he left you and made you feel. And I was like, we need to talk about this. And then I met him and I'm like, he's a great guy. It just happened to be that one situation. And I'm like, I have no ill will against him now. Great guy. They never actually had sex, so I wasn't even worried about that. But it was just like, I don't like when people make you feel like shit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to immediately hate them until I find out otherwise, that they are treating you better.
Yeah.
So like after getting to know him and knowing that like, okay, things may have ended shitty, they had their conversations about that. They reprimanded it. It's all fine now. But it's one of those things where like, if things aren't communicated well or things end badly, you have to take that and like hopefully learn from it if you're going into a poly relationship, and just know that some people are not going to communicate well, and maybe you need to cut ties with those people, because it's not going to work if you're not being open and honest about your feelings, about how things went, the aftercare part of it. So like, let's say you have so there, like one example, we had we went to a swinger party, and was not planned. Normally at these types of events, we plan ahead. So like we'll have like a like Discord message thread going with like, okay, we're going to have sex with these people, or we're going to do impact play with these people. And it's been all, vetted out, and you know what's going to happen. And so like at this particular event, I was supposed to actually be like an impact bottom for a scene, and the motherfucker just like completely ignored me the entire party. And so I was actually kind of pissed about it.
Yeah.
During the
Pretty
party.
shitty.
But it's a very long party. It's like a daytime long thing. And so towards the like middle-ish end of the night, we had been talking with someone, and we were like, let's go have a party of 5.
Yeah.
Like in one of the bedrooms, because this was like an actual party house that is like meant for swinger parties. And so we're like, okay. So yeah, we had like the group sex, and like I said, we did not like communicate this beforehand. So I was just like, oh well, this is like a great surprise.
Yeah.
And like I had sex with a couple that I'd like wanted to have sex with before, and they are a swinger couple. So we knew that they were like, we didn't need to vet their STI stuff, because again, we do this before the parties. Everyone who is attending has to post their health screening. So like I knew we're good. And then obviously like people had condoms and stuff, and so it was all good. But I like actually got a little jealous because my partner just had sex with this one dude the entire time. We were basically we were jokingly like we were just the like lounge princesses, because both of us just laid on the bed and everyone else fucked us. Yes. We didn't do anything. We just laid there and we're like, oh, this is nice. But I was like, after the party, I like told her, I was like, you know what? I don't know that I like this person. Like, he didn't even introduce himself until after. Like, we even had a joke about it where we like were out by the pool, and he came out and he goes, hi, my name is X. I'm not going to say their actual name.
Yeah.
he was like, I felt awkward to say it like while I'm, mid muff.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say it now. And I was just like, we actually cracked up at that point.
Yeah.
Because we're like introducing each other after we've all just had group sex.
Yeah.
Well, because we knew everyone else knew everyone. It was just this one person. Like I knew of them. I actually knew their partner more. But their partner wasn't there. And so it was just a little, anyways, it was weird because like, I also had this thing where he made my partner squirt and I was actually a little jealous of that. And so I like told her afterwards, I was like, I don't know that I like him. And it's probably not that I don't like him as a person. It's because of like seeing what interacted and what happened and how I'm jealous that I can't do that for you. So like we actually had that conversation. It's like I don't hate him as a person. He's actually a really nice guy. But it was one of those things where at first I was just like, fuck him. And my partner's like, we need to have these conversations because clearly when I'm having sex with these people at that time, like I don't need a partner who doesn't like that. And I was like, I completely understand. It is just my feelings and I want us to have this talk. And so we would have the talk and then I would be able to say, this is why. And she says, well, honey, I don't, well, she doesn't call me honey, more like babe. She'd be like, babe, that's not going to happen with us because you are not fucking pounding me with a penis to where I am squirting. She's like, that is not happening with us. Our sex is different, but our sex is on a whole fucking nother level. She's like, we have had experiences that we can't even explain because of how, like, it is just magical. We, like, go to another fucking planet together and we can't put it in words. No. So it's like, we have that. He does not have that. And I'm just like, oh yeah, you're right. That makes, but she's like, but you also don't have a penis. So you can't try to compare yourself, like your sex with me to that. It's never going to be that. And I was just like, thank you for putting this in perspective with me. That actually helps me understand and make me not jealous. It makes me understand we are not the same person. So I can't give her that. And she's like, and I still love you. It's like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, don't be upset over that. So it's like, you have to, if you're going into these types of relationships, you also have to understand you and whoever they're fucking are not the same person. Not going to have the same experience. No one's going to have the same experience. No. Everyone experiences differently when they're, in that zone. So that was one thing I was like.
And for myself, I've actually, because I'm working on attachment styles and actually nailing down what secure attachment looks like. And I've recently had that light bulb moment where it's like, oh, the fact that my partner is willing to sit down and have these long, hard conversations with me means something. Like, it means that this is a secure relationship because they would much rather have these conversations than shut down or run away. So I think that's an important thing too. We do need to wrap it up a little bit.
Told y'all I could talk for hours.
It's fun. So
hey, look, only after 2. So
with the continuation of like how to bring this up to maybe your partner or partners, I wanted to mention these 3 books that I have read or am still reading, which is Boy Slut by Zachary, Zane. Really good. Like, it's okay to be a slut. Stop shaming people for STIs. Kind of get out there and have fun, live life, and stop worrying about what everyone thinks about you. The Ethical Slut by Janet Hardy and Dossie, Easton? Dossie? Yeah. This one did a really great job, I feel like, of explaining more so how to get there in the sense of finding multiple lovers, not just sexual partners, but like just multiple friends and lovers in relationships, and how sex can help maybe build something a little bit bigger from that. And the one that I'm currently reading is Polysecure, which is an attachment, trauma, and consensual non-monogamy book by Jessica Fern. I've not finished this one yet, but I'm excited. Have you read any of these? No.
I have heard of the Ethical Slut a lot, but I have not read any of those. A lot of mine, I think, is more experience-based.
Nothing wrong with that.
And then just because I'm in the kink community, I actually read more of like those types of books. So there's like the ones on rope that I'm more interested in reading, which I think one of y'all has one of the books that I have.
Probably. I'm a reader. I'm a researcher. And we're just now kind of actually getting into the kink scene. We've dabbled in it for.
I mean, we've done
most of our life
for most of our lives,
but like actually getting into our community and our scene, we're actually diving into that, and that it's helpful. It's helpful to be around other people who have like-minded interests and see how things work for them. So I would say that. I would say if this is something that you're interested in giving it a go in your life and your relationship, is maybe do some research and go out to different events and talk to people who do live the lifestyle, because it's different for everyone. Everyone has different experiences, and just be ready to have conversations.
And I would suggest not just, and this is just from personal experience, and not me personally, but like, don't necessarily, especially if you're on FetLife already, don't just like DM someone and be like, hey, can you tell me blah, 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 blah. Try to find like the groups
yes
first, and post within the groups. Don't try to just DM someone directly, especially as someone who actually has her DMs on request only. So like, I don't necessarily check them all the time. And it's also just a lot of people don't necessarily check their messages. So if you are interested in like talking to someone about it, I would start by trying to find a slosh or a munch where it is in a neutral location, vanilla location. And yes, you may feel like if you go by yourself, you may feel a little like standoffish or whatever, but most people at those events have some sort of marker that will tell you, hey, I'm someone comfortable to talk to. So like we have a Durham slosh that is at Ponysaurus, and the people who are okay with you talking to them will usually wear like a star sticker, and then we also have people who sort of like are leaders ish, so kind of mosey around to make sure everything's going well, and they normally wear like some sort of like light up necklace, not like necklace, it's more like a glow stick on a string. But like they're easy to find. And if they're not, if you just stumble up to someone who obviously seems like they're in the community, like we do kind of have a look. Like there is a look, not generalized, but like you can just see a group of people that look a little alternative that probably don't necessarily come to, Ponysaurus all the time. That are there on Monday nights. That will, like, you can walk up to them and be like, oh, okay, they're like, these are people who are familiar with the community. And then you can start talking about events that are going on that maybe you can get involved with. Not every event is open to the public. Typically, they're not. And you have to go through a vetting process. And that is why we encourage people to go to the Slosh and Munches, because that's going to be your foot in the door. If you are interested in, like, joining the kink community. Now, I say this, but like the kink and poly community overlap. Very much so. So it's like, if you wanted to talk with someone about that, that is a good place to start. Even if you're not like a kinkster, we have a lot of people in the kink community who are just swingers. And so they, that's how they get in, is they, meet up with us. And it's totally fine. Like, not everyone in the kink community is kinky. Not everyone that's in the swinger community is fucking everybody in the world. So that's just a way to get into it.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of both of them, there's also a number of dungeons. Check with your local dungeon to see if they have open vetting events that are for educational purposes.
Yes.
There is, I will give a shout out to a pretty local one here in the Charlotte area, the Loft. They offer a fair amount of educational series here in Charlotte, including a monthly poly talk, I do believe, that, is fairly reasonably easy to be vetted for. If
reasonably priced.
Reasonably priced classes, absolutely right. Buxom and I went to a couple of their events. Wonderful people running it, also, by the way. So yeah, make sure to go to your sloshes and munches. Check in with community events, and don't just DM random fucking people. And if you are like one of those people who doesn't like to go out in person, the groups are great.
Groups are great, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some groups that aren't great, but hey-o.
And like to sort of give a shout out to like one that's local to the RDU area, there's Kink Practice, and they usually host educational events weekly. And they're usually on Wednesday or Thursday nights. And they've been hosting them at the Durham Fruit. So
that's pretty cool.
If you get on FET, you can like look for that group. And then also they do have vetting, but it is like you just have to go through the group, and then it will give you instructions on how to do that. But once you're vetted, then you can go to these educational events and learn things, and they do a lot of different things. So it can be like if you're like want to like learning how to do rope, there's rope classes. If you're learning about like there was one I attended that was on massage. So if you're like learning different types of body massage, and then like what things are not safe to do. So like I learned during that class, you should not be massaging bruises because those are blood clots. If you massage the blood clot, guess what? It travels.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to learn.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Noted.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
And yeah, so they offer classes like that are very educational, and they do it weekly. So yeah. Kink Practice.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, let's get out of here.
Wait. But I haven't done my slut offering.
No, that's after.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
after.
we do that.
Yeah.
In the post.
Yeah, we do
Y'all
that as
don't
a
get
little
to
short.
shoot it.
Little short.
So until next time, I don't know. Be loud.
Be proud.
Be a slut.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Slut Life Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating or review in our podcast to share the love. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss out on what we have next. Follow our Instagram at SlutLifePod to keep up with all the fun. And always remember, be loud, be proud, be a slut.